raising your children and trying to get through life, and if something happened to that breadwinner or one of the parents, that income is lost. So if you buy term and you buy enough of it, it will cover that spouse's income that was lost. Whole life, on the other hand, is good. And you want to buy whole life if you, and it's best to buy it while you're young, because whole life costs way more than term. So whole life is something that you just pay on until you die. It offers a death benefit. It offers a saving. But what you need to know about whole life, the saving part, it takes at least 7 years before savings start to build up in whole life. And after 7 years, if you borrow for whatever reason you might want to borrow from your whole life policy, you have to pay that money back at a 6% interest or higher. But I know it, as of now, I think it's 6%. So if you borrow from that policy and you don't pay the money back, it is constantly being taken from the face value of that policy. So if you have it for 10 years and then the person dies, well, if that money has not been paid back, they subtract that from your policy, from the premium. If you had a $100,000 policy and you borrowed $50,000, well, they're going to take that $50,000 away. And if you never pay for it, if you never repay the loan, it'll eat away at your face value. And then when that person passed, there might be no life insurance. So you have to be careful when you're buying whole life and when you're borrowing from the whole life policy. Term life and insurance is very important. It does way more than we ever thought it can do. It will save you or help you if you have a mortgage. If you put enough life insurance on the person that's taking it out, $200,000. If you have a $250,000 home, you want to take at least that much out to take care of that home if something happened to one of you before you pass, so that it can pay down or pay it off. That's another good reason to have life insurance. And I'm going to skip through a lot of stuff. I'm not going to read everything, but when we look at 4, I don't know if y'all see it, but if you look at 4, it says, should children be insured? A lot of people think children should not be insured, but I recommend you do a policy on your child, especially if you don't have money saved up. But you don't want to put a whole lot on a child, because there are red flags that go up if you want to insure your child for $200,000, because he's not the breadwinner. He's not the bread, what's the word? He's not the person that's going to take care of the household. So you want to at least put $20,000 or less on a child, so that if you don't have any money, if God forbid something happens, the child will be covered. When should you self-insure yourself? As soon as you can. Buy insurance as soon as you can. Once you turn 18 or 20, buy insurance. Later on, if you get married, you got enough insurance in case something happened to you. And if you get sick within those years, from 20 years on up to 50, if you've already got your insurance, you won't have to worry about that sickness that you might get that might cause you not to be able to buy life insurance. I want to talk a little about Medicaid. A lot of people need Medicaid, and they don't quite understand Medicaid. Medicaid is something that you get when you turn 65. It comes from your government. They will automatically give you that when you turn 65. But the main thing you want to do is make sure when you're about to turn 65, 3 months before you turn, you want to go ahead and apply. If you do not at that time, you will be charged a premium for not signing up before you turn 65 or at 65. So it's very important for those that are getting near that age. You want to go ahead and sign into Medicare right away. You get parts A and B. You're eligible at age 65. Enrollment begins 3 months before your 65th birthday. And what does Medicare covers? Medicare begins the first day you enroll. Coverage begins the first day of the month after your birthday, because you're going to enroll during your birth month. If you enroll during the month after your birthday, coverage begins 3 months after your birthday month. If you enroll during the second month after your birthday, coverage begins 5 months after your birthday month. I know it's a lot you have to kind of bring into, but the main thing you want to take away from Medicare, sign up 3 months before your 65th birthday. That's a little on Medicare. And I think that's about it, unless somebody have any questions. So life insurance is a contract between you and an insurance company. Life insurance provides a death benefit to your named beneficiary, usually a spouse. When you pass away, your beneficiary files a claim with the insurance company to submit proof. You can contact your insurance agent or any insurance company to help you with the paperwork.
Okay. So she got one question. So how do you want to
unmute and ask that question?
So I think this is about it. So I'm turning it back over to.
I can't read it from the chat room. I'm sorry. Sister Key, we have a question.
Go ahead.
For term life insurance, do you have to specify that the policy will be used to cover the home?
The way you do that is two ways to buy term insurance to cover your mortgage or your life If you're going to buy term insurance or life insurance to take care of your home, what you do is put enough life insurance on your life. So if you know you got a $250,000 home, you know you're gonna need at least that much if something happened to you. So you want to buy a $500,000 policy on you as life on you. Now for mortgage insurance, life insurance companies sell what they call mortgage insurance. And if you do it through the mortgage insurance, you would do a insurance that if you bought a $500,000 policy and it's mortgage insurance, every year that you pay on it, it would decline until the end of those 30 years or 15 years that you have to pay for the home. So it's two ways you can do it. Either put enough life insurance on the person, or you can go through mortgage insurance.
Okay, thank you, Sister Key. This is going to conclude this session. If anyone would like to receive additional information regarding insurance, contact Sister Key. We have her email in the chat room, keefinancial@yahoo.com. Feel free to email her. Thank you very much. And now we will have the next presenter, Ms. Phoebe Dawson.
Hello, I'm Phoebe Dawson. Hello, everyone. I am with Alfonso Dawson Mortuary. I'm president and CEO, and I'm here with my son, Garrison, who is helping me this afternoon. I am the daughter of Alfonso and Elizabeth Dawson, the founders of Dawson's Mortuary. This company started over 60 years ago, and we are proud to continue to serve. in our neighborhood and community, the Atlanta area at large. We want to talk to you about this very special service that we're having now. We want to talk about your life, your plan, your way, making your final wishes known. We're going to discuss pre-planning. What is pre-planning? Pre-planning is making funeral arrangements before the need arises. Understanding the benefits of planning ahead has prompted many to take the step to plan their own funeral in advance. Call and set up an appointment and discuss planning ahead with a caring professional here at Dawson's Mortuary. We also would like to talk about who should pre-plan. Pre-planning is so important. Anyone and everyone in position to do so should pre-plan for one of the most difficult times that will eventually happen to all of us. Because death is a difficult topic to discuss, begin by finding a way to talk about this subject with the people that you love. Pre-planning offers you the peace of mind in knowing your expressed wishes will be carried out. Your loved ones will not need to ask, did we do the right thing? We'd like to tell you about the advantages. What are the advantages of pre-planning? Funeral expenses can be locked in at today's prices. This spares your loved ones from financial worry at the time of need. Alleviates the stress of hasty decision-making for your family. Provides peace of mind in knowing that all basic services and merchandise have been selected. Funeral services are guaranteed to be provided at the time of need according to the original contract. Your investment is protected and secured with a reputable company. Talk to your family about how you can secure finances. Payment options include insurance proceeds, cash, checks, and monthly installment plans. Pre-planning final arrangements. What we're saying is that we'd like to customize for you the service that is important to you. You may want a very religious service or not so religious. We have military services, graveside services, fraternal services. We just want to create the service that's right for you. I like to talk a little bit about cremation and memorial services because memorial services are just so very popular now. Anytime you hear the word memorial, that means there will be no casket present. People are having memorial services in our chapel. That's very important now. There are traditional funeral services and cremations. What that means is it would be a traditional service with the casket available, but after the traditions that we have come to know and love, there will be a cremation to follow. And then, of course, there is the direct cremation. That means the loved one goes straight to the crematory, no services, no viewing. And there are people that want to bury urns. You may bury the urn after a cremation in a niche or a graveside burial. Some people actually keep their urns forever, or you have the options of sprinkling your cremains at a cemetery, at the mountains, or in the oceans, whatever you desire. There are many options available with cremations. Speaking of burials, however, there is such thing as green burial, mausoleum, and earth plot burials. There are many cemeteries. There is Rest Haven Garden of Memory. There are mausoleums available, and the Georgia National Cemetery is very popular. That is where our veterans go for a beautiful homegoing burial. Thank you for your time. If you have any questions, I'd like to answer them for you now.
One in the audience about prepaid barriers. All right.
So one question is, what is the price range of average services?
Okay, the price range of the average traditional funeral service is about $49 or $100, maybe $5,000. The cost of a funeral varies depending on the casket choice. There are very expensive, very elaborate caskets, or you may want to keep things very simple. So we like for you to be able to see our inventory and decide what is right for you.
Question for the audience. The question that was just asked was, what is the price range of the average service? Okay, that seems to be all the questions we have.
Thank you.
In time, we really appreciate your time, Ms. Dawson.
We're honored to be a part of this. Thank you.
We will make sure everyone has your email address so they can email
Yes.
you for additional information and to put plans in place.
Thank you.
Next, our speaker will be Glenda Berry for Dignity Memorial.
Thank you, thank you. I am sharing my screen, and it's so amazing that the two young ladies went before me, because we kind of bring up the rear end. You have to have a policy, you have to have a life insurance plan. So what I'm going to speak on is, now what? You've done the funeral service, and we are one of the cemeteries located in College Park, Georgia, that helps with making sure that your loved one is taken care of in a meaningful way. So I'm going to go through this presentation pretty quickly to get to the burial portion, because as my sisters before me has said, they will bring you into their care and take care of your funeral portion. And we work with cemeteries across Georgia, funeral homes across Georgia, to now be the person to lay your loved one to rest at the final resting place. I'm going to see how to move this. Can you all hear me? And make this work. There we go. So, doing the funeral is one of life's most stressful events, versus loss of a loved one when it comes to planning for life's events. So what we like to do is make sure that you're prepared and answer the question, what now? Would you know who to call? Do you know how he or she wants to be remembered? And where would you start? Protect your loved ones, making sure that you have the funeral taken care of, and making sure that all of their questions are answered, and making sure you're locking in the rising cost of funeral arrangements and burial arrangements. Because as they said, once you pre-plan everything, including the cemetery portion, all the price changes that go on over the years cannot impact your family. And one of the things she said about life insurance is, make sure that you know why you're taking out life insurance, and everything is covered. If it's going to cover your burial portions, just know that if you are 30 years old and you live your life expectancy to about the average of 85, the cost of these final arrangements will continue to rise. So you want to pre-plan both funeral and cemetery to lock in the pricing. And of course, we both have plans where you can pay it over several years. So when it is time to bury you, your life insurance is not impacted as much because you've locked in the price, as well as your loved ones will have some money to live on further. So when you're planning your life insurance, make sure you know your goals and the strategy you're trying to accomplish. Plan to make it right. Reflect, record, support, and share your plan with your family. Understanding that someone will have to take on the final arrangement plans. making sure that they're aware of where your plans are and what they are. We find with some families that people have life insurance and they don't even know about it. And they've gone and taken on all of the expenses when they could have been using the policy. Record everything and make sure that it's in a place where someone can find it, or the person, your next of kin, knows what your wishes are. There's going to be more than 100 questions asked at the time of your death between a funeral home and a cemetery and all the financial institutions that's going to be involved, your banking and all of that. And support your plan financially, making sure that you don't leave this for a loved one who may or may not want to take on this burden. The biggest thing is to share it. Share it so that everyone knows what to do. This is a final arrangement screen. As you can see on the left side is everything that you're going to need that is relates to your funeral and planning with our sister. And on the right side is everything that you're going to need from the cemetery side. Where are you going to be interred? Will it be a niche? Will it be a mausoleum? Will it be a ground burial? And all of those are different prices and serve different purposes. So make sure that if you're going to do a ground burial, what does the outer burial container look like? Outer burial containers come in concrete, they come in stainless steel, and they come in lined and unlined. So when you think about pricing, know what you want to have for yourself, as well as the loved ones you're going to have to take care and be a part of participating in making sure that they're laid to rest properly. You're going to have a marker. Is it going to be a bronze marker? Is it going to be an upright marker? All of these questions are going to have to be answered before you are completely planned. What's the cemetery service fees? Does those fees include perpetual care? Will I have to go out and pull grass, or do they take care of anything that happens in that cemetery? Forest Lawn takes care of everything that happens in our cemetery. We're 100% service guarantee. No perpetual care. The vase breaks off your marker, we repair it. So just make sure that all of these things are considered when you determine your final resting place. We have a planning guide that will help you with this. I'm willing to give everyone on the call a guide. They will share my personal information, and you're welcome to go ahead and share that information with your loved ones. And keep in mind that everybody's planning guide is going to be different because everybody is a different person. So if you need 2 or 3, then let me know, because we are dealing with the times now where a lot of our family members, unfortunately, are not prepared. And we don't want this to happen to you or your loved ones. The biggest thing is travel protection. To talk about what happens if you are away on a trip, a business trip at your relative's house, and you're 75 miles away from home and something happens to you. No matter where you are, we handle getting you back to your funeral home of choice. This is called travel protection, transportation and relocation protection. I know a lot of people are aware of situations where people are in the islands, have a heart attack, passed away, and getting through customs, getting through permitting, understanding who to call. We take care of all of that through our travel protection. It's called TRPP program. And it's $499 for a lifetime. You never pay that fee but once. If you are traveling and you've done a lot of travel in an airport, you know that every time you fly, they ask you to buy that insurance. And this is a one-time lifetime purchase that protects you from anything that can happen to you more than 75 miles away from home. This is important for the people who are going to have to handle your arrangements. 90% of the people would not know where to start, particularly if you are going or traveling international. So that if you move, your travel protection moves with you. You will receive a credit card size identification card that goes right in your wallet behind your driver's license. And as long as the person that's handling your arrangements dial that 1-800 number, we take care of everything from there, from making sure that we are participating with an international or an out-of-state provider to get you to a local provider here in the state of Georgia. Come on. Well, it wants to stop clicking. The presentation seemed to have frozen. There we go. Now, commemorate a life with a permanent memorial. This is like where you're going to lay your loved one to rest, their final resting place. Will it be a bench? These benches come in cremation benches to where you can enter 4 urns inside of the base of this bench. We have ground burials, we have mausoleums, we have above ground and below ground crypts. So I'd love for you all to just take a ride out through the cemetery and see what it is that feels good about you to your loved ones. Where would they want to come and spend time with you after your life ends? Some of the pricing that we have is property options are traditional ground burials, mausoleum entombments, and this is for 2 people because it's called a tandem mausoleum, which is head to head. And this is also a double depth lawn crypt. So if it's a husband or wife or children or someone that you know that you're going to need 2 spaces, it's sometimes best to go ahead and prearrange for both, because all of us are going to leave this earth. No matter if you live 20 more years or 50 more years, we cannot change the price of these things if they are pre-planned. Some of the other things is going to come into play is if someone is going to have a traditional burial and then another loved one is going to be cremated. You can put both of those loved ones in one space with something that's called a second right. And that is where one person is either on the top or the bottom. We dig deep enough for 2 people to be in the grave, and you can then have a second right at $19.95 and save yourself some money rather than buying several spaces. So always inquire about the option for second right only if one or more of the loved ones is going to be cremated. It cannot be 2 traditional burials unless it's a double death lawn crypt. Okay, these are some of the other costs that you would incur as it relates to laying your loved one to rest for a permanent memorial. Keep in mind that we're giving you this information because these costs are expensive. And when you wait till time of need, you cannot take care of them over a period of 5 years. We finance prearranged plans up to 5 years. However, if this is a burial, immediate burial, at need burial, this money would have to be paid all in full before we can open that grave or lay your loved one to rest. So this gives you an idea, along with my sisters, that the cost to inter your loved one is expensive, but it's also based on the kind of vault you get, the kind of marker you're getting, whether it's a second right, whether it's a cremation niche. There's all types of permanent places to lay your loved one to rest. So just think through that, because it is very critical when it comes to time of need that your loved ones know where you're going after your funeral services. Record the information so everyone knows who to call and what to do. Once we have this information and they give us a call, all we do is start paperwork. They do not have to come in and go through this looking for a place when they're really emotional. When people are emotional, they tend to spend more. So please pre-plan, because we cannot tell them not to spend on their loved ones. So the other piece is, if you're going to have a graveside funerals, we do gravesides. We do work with several funeral homes in the area, and we would love to work with you all on a graveside celebration of life. Support the plan, know how you're going to pay for it, lock in today's pricings, check out the payment terms that myself and the funeral homes have, and ease the financial burden on your loved one. If you have a $10,000 life insurance policy today, just know that if you don't pass away for 30 years, that policy probably won't cover what you need it to cover. So just keep that in mind.
Mr.
Share it.
Barrett,
Yes.
we're gonna have to end your session at this point in time.
Okay.
We will have your contact information where the guests can reach you. And we appreciate sincerely your taking the time to share this information with us.
Absolutely. And my phone number
Anybody in
and
the
everything
audience
is
have
on the
any
screen.
questions for her? Yes, ma'am. Ms. DeBerry,
Yes,
can you have a space for more than 2 persons to be buried?
a double depth lawn crypt holds 2 people. However, if you are all going to be cremated, you can place up to 4 cremation urns in one space with a second right, third right, and fourth right. The first right is the person that the space was purchased for. A second right means a second person is going there. A third right means a third person is going there. And a fourth right means a fourth person is going there. But they all cost $19.95 additionally for each additional right placement. So yes, you can have up to 4 people in a space if they are all cremated.
And this is only if they're cremated.
Yes, if they are not, you have 1 traditional and 2 cremations. If the traditional is on the bottom of the grave, you can place 2 cremated remains on top of that traditional for a second and third right for $19.95 a piece.
Okay, thank you very much. And this will conclude the presentation by Dignity Memorial, Ms. Blenda DeBerry. You will see her contact information on the screen. And now we will have the 4th session, which will be presented by Attorney Demetrius Paget.
Amen. Praise the Lord, everyone. We truly thank the Lord for being here. I'm going to share my screen. And we're going to try to go through this fairly quickly, given that it's a lot of content. But today we're discussing primarily wills, power of attorneys, advanced directives, and just those pre-planning tools that we have available that can help alleviate stress to loved ones when we leave off the scene. So we're going to talk about wills, power of attorneys, guardianship, conservator, advanced directives. Disclaimer, most of these laws and things I'm be talking about is going to involve Georgia. Of course, I'm licensed in Georgia. So most of the research that was done is catered to Georgia law. But with that being said, laws tend to be similar. You have what's called a common law back from Great Britain, and all of these laws kind of carried over to the United States. So the foundation of what we're talking about will be the same typically from state to state, but there will be sometimes some minute differences. Why should you have a will? Why is it important? We have a couple of reasons here, but I want to highlight the communication aspect of it. It helps you communicate with the next generation. A lot of times when someone passes without a will, the family is left in the dark. And, I'm not sure if you all have experienced it with loved ones, but the family that remains tend to have to pick up the pieces, and it could be as simple as, what's going to happen to the car? What's going to happen to the TV? What's going to happen to the house? But these are very, very important questions that your family, my family would love to have answers to while we're here. Because of course, once we're gone, we're gone. There's not going to be coming back to give an answer. So what is a will? Basically, a will is a document that designates how a deceased person's estate will be divided. And that word estate, that means personal property as well as real property. So it could be as simple as a TV, some prized possessions. It could be as expansive as your car, real property, your house. A will is going to set aside and dispel of how these particular items are to be issued, how they're going to be divvied out. The features of a will, we can kind of go through this. It's going to distribute your property as stated. It's going to name a personal representative to act for the estate. Of course, these items have to be given. If you want to give your car to Brother Bobby, you need someone that's going to do that for you. Of course, you're deceased at this point with that scenario. So you have to have a personal representative. For some, they have minor children. A will could designate, or it could at least express a preference as far as a guardian for the children. And that's something that we don't really think about, but God forbid something were to happen to us who have minor children. That's something that would be good to have on file, your preference of who the child would be with. So wills can do a lot of things, but it's really going to primarily deal with property. definitions. These are some terms, you know, I'm going to go through them briefly, but you don't have to memorize this. But it's good to familiarize yourself with it, but don't memorize it. Testate. Testate, if a person dies testate, that means that they pass with a will in place. That's all that means. That means that the person has passed, but before they pass, they had a will in place. Intestate is the opposite. There's no will in place. And we're going to talk about the ramifications of that a little bit later. You have a heir, beneficiary. We've heard these terms before, but what do they mean in the context of wills and trusts? Heir is someone who inherits property outside of a will. So if I were to pass today without a will in place, the people that would inherit from my estate would be called heirs. Beneficiaries, on the other hand, are those that will receive property, receive gifts through the will. So like I said, just kind of familiarize yourself, but you don't have to memorize these. We have some other terms here. Administrator, executor. We spoke earlier about someone that will be designated to represent the estate. Key difference, administrator is going to represent the estate when there is no will. You can see it's very important whether you have a will or not. It's going to determine how things are done. Executor is someone who is nominated and is going to administer the estate when there is a will. This codicil, this word right here, this is basically, it's an amendment to a will. If I were to make a will today, 2 years down the line, I decide I want to change something about that will, you could amend it, and that's going to be called a codicil. But just be mindful that with amendments, it has to have the same formalities, the same elements as a will itself. All right, so what are the elements of a will? This is very important, and this is going to be one of those fundamental principles across states. No matter what state that you're in, some of this is going to overlap very heavily. So a will must be in writing. You have some states that recognize what's called a holographic will, a will that's given orally. But in most states, I want to let you know that's a minority. That's a minority opinion to allow holographic wills. You want something that's going to be in writing. The will maker, the person that's writing the will in the state of Georgia, has to be over the age of 14, must be competent. If I could bold this, if I could highlight this greater, I would. But that's a key element. You have to be confident. What does that mean? You have to know what you're doing, know that you're making a will, and know that it's going to dispose of property at death. You've had situations in the law where someone writes down a note. It could be someone that's battling with cancer, and they say, if I die tomorrow of cancer, then I want this particular house to go to so-and-so. Well, that's not really going to comply under a will, because it's too indefinite. That if, by saying if I die, no, that's not what a will is. A will is your last word. This means that when I leave from this earth, this is what I want to happen. Not if I leave, but when I leave, this is what I want to happen. So that competent, I highlight that for a reason. It's very important that you know what it means, and you can always amend it if needed. Okay, I'm trying to go through it fairly quickly. I want to cover as much as possible. For the will itself in the state of Georgia, it requires 2 witnesses. That means 2 people actually have to see you sign the will. And not only do they have to see you sign it, but they have to sign it themselves. Why is this? It's just a form of protection. We don't want people drafting documents in secret and, just no one not knowing about it. The point of everything that's been said today is to inform your family. It doesn't have to be like Soul Food. That's a movie that many people might have watched, and grandma left money in the tea. It doesn't have to be like that. You want your family to know specifically. It shouldn't be no guessing about what's going on, because what it's going to do, it's going to help alleviate tension between the family. As we say, there must be 2 witnesses. Those witnesses must observe each other. So literally, everyone needs to be in the same room. That would be the best advice, when it is actually being signed. So what happens if you die without a will? Why is it so important? We talked about it already, but it's going to create some friction. It's going to create, some division between the family. It has a potential to do that. So you want your family to know, what's going to happen. And ultimately, if you don't decide, somebody is, the state the state of Georgia, the state of New Jersey, the state of South Carolina, North Carolina. The list goes on. If you don't decide where you want these items to go, I don't care how great, how small, the state will decide. And that's just, being honest about it. They will decide. How do they decide? In the state of Georgia, there's a tiered system. Of course, spouses, if you were to pass a day without a will, the spouse would be entitled to everything, essentially. If there are children involved, then the spouse and the children can take, evenly. So that is a possible scenario. But after that, after spouse and children, then you have a situation where, okay, who would receive in that setting? So in the state of Georgia, as in many other states, you have a graded system. All right, and we're just going to go through it briefly. So spouse is number one. Your spouse, he or she would receive almost everything. Same with children. Grandchildren will kind of fall under that children category. But let's say you are an only child, didn't have children. Your parents may have predeceased yourself. You can kind of see where the issues might arise. So after children, after grandchildren, which would be right here, parents would receive, they would inherit. After parents, siblings. After siblings, grandparents. After grandparents, uncles and aunts. So this is the scheme that the state of Georgia has come up with, and this is going to be similar in many other states. But the situation is, this happens in real life where someone has, no family in these categories. If someone were to live to the age of 80 and not have children, not have grandchildren, it's likely they probably don't have many siblings, grandparents, uncles and aunts. So it is possible. It does happen. So it's very important that wills are in place. All right. And let's say, you just don't have any siblings. What happens at that point? Everything that's within your state will go to the state. It will go to Georgia. So someone else will enjoy the fruits of it, without you making that decision. So it is important. It might seem far-fetched, but sometimes it does happen. This is real life. The technical term for that, when the estate is given back to when the property from the estate is given back to the actual providence, the state of Georgia or whatever state it is, it's called escheat. It escheats back to the state. Okay, we talked about problems when there's no will. There's going to be confusion, several things like that. Just some interesting facts. Wills are not hard to come by. A lot of times you can get them from these other entities, Office Depot, but I would suggest it's best to consult a lawyer because laws different. They vary state to state. So definitely consult a lawyer. As far as probate, what is probate? What does that mean? A court supervised procedure for transferring the deceased person's estate to his or her beneficiaries. And whether you die or pass with a will or without a will, your estate has to be dealt with. So it's going to happen. Most time that's going to be in a probate court. This is just a brief sentence I want to read just from statutory law here in Georgia. This is very important. A will must be freely and voluntarily executed. A will is not valid if anything destroys the testator's freedom of volition, such as fraudulent practices upon the testator's fears, affections, sympathies, misrepresentation, duress, or undue influence whereby the will of another is substituted for the wishes of the testator. This is important. I want to highlight this because the problem that we have, one of the most common problems that you might have seen on TV shows or just cursory knowledge of the law, is that we have some of our senior citizens, some of our elderly, some of those that have reached their golden years, and they may not necessarily be in the frame of mind due to sickness, due to age, to write out a will at this moment. So it's very important that when you do have, your sensibilities, when you do have the use and activity of your limbs, it's important to do it early, because if you wait too late, then you may subject yourself to being taken advantage of. Basically what this statement is saying is that it's a common knowledge that people, as they enter those golden years and become more vulnerable, they can be taken advantage of. Fear, affection, sympathies, misrepresentation, duress, it happens every day. So in order to secure your will, in order to make sure that it's valid, that there won't be any challenges to it, I would suggest it's always best to do it early. Do it in your 40s, do it in your 50s, when there's no doubt in nobody's mind that you did it because you wanted to do it, not because somebody was pressuring you. That's something that happens quite a bit. This is an interesting fact. In the state of Georgia, you have an interim clause. Basically, what this clause suggests and what it means, it allows you to write someone out of your will if they challenge it. They will actually forfeit their share of what they were supposed to get if they challenge it. So if you have a particularly, combative relationship or combative siblings, combative children, that's something that you can consider. But that's in the state of Georgia. It's not valid in other jurisdictions. I know for a fact that Florida doesn't recognize it. So again, laws vary state to state. Where to keep the will. So the will needs to be done. Of course, you can go to an attorney's office. The attorney can keep a file of it, but put it in a bank safe, put it in a private safety box. But most importantly, as stated earlier, notify your family, because once you pass, you won't be able to tell them where it is. So it's important that you share that information. Last thing about wills, and we talked about, life insurance, burial expenses in the state of Georgia, and this is going to kind of vary state to state, but your estate is going to be subject to certain debts, to certain claims. After your estate is opened up, now remember, whether you pass with or without a will, your estate's going to be opened up. It's going to be set up. And what happens is it's still subject to certain debts. And this is the system. This is the graded portion. This is the tiered system, rather, by which debts can attach to your estate. So, of course, you want to take care of your support of the family. Basically, what this means is after your estate is set up, the probate court can take a certain amount of money to take care of the family. But funeral expenses, they don't go away. That can come out of your estate, and other expenses, even cars, secured loans. So just be mindful of that. Those debts don't go away. Sister Stallings, please stop me on time if I'm running low. Briefly, planning for incapacity. We talked about, some of our seniors, some of those that reached their golden years, and just some of the vulnerabilities that they have. It happens to your family, it happens to my family. Likely if we live long enough, it'll happen to us. But what happens? How do you plan for incapacity? This is very important. The power of attorney. We're not going to go in depth about these topics, but I just want to, just introduce it to you. Power of attorney. Basically what that does, it gives someone else power to act on your behalf, whether it be business errands, bank accounts, selling a home, transferring money, access to your cell phone account. That's what a power of attorney is. That's fairly, I'm going to say basic. A lot of people are familiar with that term, but that's what it's for. It's based on your financial goals for the most part, or limited purpose, like selling a home. It's going to be something finance related. Now, so it's important, if you feel that you're in a position where you need to get a power of attorney, don't wait, because what happens is you can't wait until you're incapacitated to do this. This is something that has to happen, while you are living, while you have full use and activity of your members, and most of all, while you're confident and are able to do so. Okay, so that's the power of attorney. I'm going through it really quickly, almost done. Advanced directive. This has become so important nowadays because, you never know the condition that you're going to be in, as we leave this life. We know we got to leave, but we don't know how. But what an advanced directive does, it dictates to the medical staff, to your health agent, who you'll choose, certain answers to these questions. Do you want your organs donated? Do you want an autopsy performed? All of these powers, whether to sustain yourself on life support, if you come to a point where you can't make that decision, these are things that can be answered in an advanced directive, not a will, not a power of attorney, but advanced directive. Again, this varies state to state, but if I can just spark that interest, it's something that you can look into in your state to see if the terminology is the same. But advanced directive, especially with our beliefs, a lot of times, a loved one passes, there's a fight over the body, but advanced directive, you would really be telling, someone what you want to happen to your body. And again, that will help, alleviate some of the trouble down the line. Almost done. So let's say there's a situation where you have not gotten a power of attorney, you have not gotten advance directive. What happens? You're in a position now where you're in a comatose state, unfortunately, or you're in a position where you can't communicate. What happens in that situation? Time is run out almost. Well, what happens in that situation? Your family can file an adult guardianship petition. Adult guardianship petition means that they will actually take custody of you and make decisions on your behalf. Decisions regarding where you will stay, whether it's a nursing home, whether you need to go to the doctor, they will be able to make those decisions. Conservator, on the flip side of that, is similar to guardian, but they will make those financial decisions. But with both of these, guardianship, conservator, this is something that your family has to petition the court for in the state of Georgia. And basically what has to happen is there has to be an evaluation, have to go before a court. So if you can avoid this process by any means, that might be the route to go. If you can do the power of attorney, if you can do the advance directive, that may alleviate the need for your family to go through these steps. And I can tell you from experience that it is a process. You have to get an evaluation of the proposed ward. You have to go before the court to testify why the person is in need of guardianship and the like. So if you can plan ahead, it's always beneficial. Disclaimer, I think I mentioned this in the beginning, but of course, everything that was stated is primarily based in Georgia law. It's foundational tool. This is not advice. This is not legal advice. This is informative. It's really to spark your interest. A will, power of attorney, advance directive. These things, they are not hard to accomplish, but you have to ask the questions. There'll be a lot of tools at your local courthouse. Of course, they can't give you legal advice. They will steer clear of that, but you want to make sure that you ask questions, and the resources that are available, please reach out to them. I don't have my email address listed here, but I'm pretty sure that we can get it to you. Special thanks to Bishop James Stoudemire, entire body of Christ, to everyone that's sit in on this presentation, and also Attorney Maxwell, who would have been doing the presentation. Shout out to her for assisting. She did a presentation about 10 years ago, so a lot of the laws changed, so we had to update the research on it, but shout out to her. Feel free, visit our website at forestbjohnson.com. We do personal injury, wrongful death, medical malpractice. We don't do, wills and estates. We don't do that, but, we would appreciate you just checking out our website. Give us a Google review. Check us out on Facebook. We do a lot in the community. And again, thank God for all of the men of God for this opportunity. If there are any questions, I will take a few if I can answer.
You still can send information to him or questions via his email, which we showed on the screen. And if you have questions in the chat box, we'll make sure they get to him. And we're going to allow Bishop Nixon, we're going to ask him to come forward and close out the program. Thank you, each and everyone who participated, who attended, and who supported the setup of this program, and to Bishop Stoudemire for putting this program on display for us. Bishop Nixon.
Amen. Thank you, Sister Stallings. Amen. Let's give all of them a hand that have really done a great job. Amen. We thank, amen, for Bishop Stoudemire, amen, letting us put this presentation together. Amen. We thank Sister Yvonne Key. Amen. We thank Miss Phoebe Dawson with Dawson Mortuary. Amen. We thank Miss Belinda DeBerry. Amen. We thank Miss Letra Maxwell and Elder Demetrius Paget. We thank God for you all. Amen. I thank God for everyone that has come out, amen, with this presentation. Everyone did a great job, and Bishop Stoudemire, he sends his love to all of you that took time out, amen, with this presentation Amen. He has some other engagement, but amen, I'm just in his stead. But we thank God for all of you. I tell you, wills, everything that has been talked about is very important. And I tell you, when it come down to your loved one, wills is very important. Amen. In that way, you won't have to have nobody fussing and arguing about your property or whatever, you know. So we thank God for you. We love y'all, and we appreciate all of you that have tuned in, amen, to this presentation. And we hope to see you in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. God bless. We'll talk soon.